Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Pleasure Alchemy podcast. I am recording a solo episode. Samantha couldn't be with us here today, but I have Lauren Searles, haha, with me. Is that name okay to announce to the audience, or what is the name that you go by?
Yeah, I mean, I go by Lauren, and Lauren Haha is my nickname, and Lauren
Yes,
Searles is my full name.
I love that. I actually want to know where the haha came in from.
Yeah, that's a really long, winding story.
Yeah.
But in short, it comes from the name Minnehaha, which means laughing water or waterfall, which came through the book The Song of Hiawatha that I was reading on my way out to California and Earth Dance in 2003. And it was just a very significant time in my life. And I was drawn at the base of a waterfall while reading this story. And I was like, wow, these waterfall coincidences. And I got to the festival and I was telling this story and I was like, I can't just change my name to Minnehaha. And this beautiful man was like, you are Lauren Haha. And he named me Haha. Yeah.
I love that. And I feel that it signifies your essence so much. For those of you, I mean, many of you don't know that how me and Lauren came about to know each other is that she ended up subletting a room in the house that we lived together at. And I just feel that you're such an embodiment of like joy and laughter and this empress energy that is so contagious and magnetizing to be around. And I'm just so grateful that I've had the pleasure of sharing space with you. And then now having you here on the podcast to share your knowledge and your wisdom with my audience. It's so special for me. So thank you for being here.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a joy and a pleasure to be in the home with you. And I'm very excited about today's conversation.
Yes. Before we get into the topic, I would love for my audience to know a little bit about you and how you came to this really powerful work that you are now sharing with the world.
Yeah. So I've been on a path of the healing arts for, I don't know, maybe 16 years and kind of just followed the crumb trails of my intuition. Like first it was moved from Colorado to the Bay Area. And then it was like, go to massage school. And I was like, okay. And I actually started in the sex positive culture and kind of just got exposed to sensual massage and tantric healing pretty early on. And I just dove really deep into that work and I fully submerged myself. And when I would hit an edge of my own growth, I would study something new and I would study more tantric practices. And I was just always kind of like, what's next? And like, what's the next edge of my evolution? And took a lot of different trainings, lots of yoga trainings, lots of tantra trainings. But what really like catapulted my coaching work and where I am now was Layla Martin's coaching program. Now it's called the Vita Method. And I did her first class into 2017. And I was going through a major breakup with my twin flame beloved. And it was really tumultuous. And I had this coaching program, thankfully, with all these tools for like embodiment and breath work and healing and self-love. And so I was really like anchoring in these practices while I was on my own healing journey. So like I knew in my bones how effective these practices were in creating inner wholeness and safety and sense of belonging. And I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. And I actually meant to start working with women. And I was like, all right, I'm going to coach women and it's going to be amazing. And I have, but men just kept gravitating to my work and they kept showing up and they kept just informing me what they needed and what they wanted. And so I've really like formulated my current program now just around the men that I've worked with. And I'm like, okay, I feel like I just have this learned understanding from years of experience of just listening and taking it in and what's on men's hearts and minds and their sexuality and what's really important for them.
Yeah, I would imagine from your sensual massage work that you could feel and see a lot with how men were embodying and showing up to receive that kind of that healing work. I'm curious if that also too was leading you to like the coaching work you're doing now.
It's kind of like a yes and no. I feel
Yeah.
like the clientele that comes for sensual massage is a little different than the clientele that
Mm,
comes for coaching. And there has been
mhm.
some really beautiful overlap, and people that I do both with, which I really enjoy and love. But it's like a really special
Mm,
man who comes in with awareness of like, I'm here to heal my deep seated wounds and traumas and be the
yes.
best man I can possibly be. Um, so that's a different, it's
Mm,
just a little bit of a different perspective and willingness to like go really deep on the path. And sensual massage is great. I love it. It's an amazing art form, but I still look at it as like a temporary fix or
yes.
just a feel momentary feel good. Like, okay, I'm in my body, I'm feeling things, I'm getting nourished, I'm getting this like deep need met, but it's not necessarily like rewiring their nervous system to kind of like have a different outcome in their life. And that's why I love
Mm,
coaching work, because I'm like, I'm actually changing their lives and how they
yes.
function within it and how their sex life is, and just longevity and partnership, and yeah, all kinds
Love that.
of different
That's a great
tools.
answer. Yeah, it's like long-term success and results, I feel, is obviously so much more powerful than those kind of quick hits, feel good experiences, which are also nourishing. But yeah, I would imagine those people that are wanting that really huge transformation, that takes actually committing and doing the work over a longer period of time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And so, given what we talked about earlier when we were brainstorming what we wanted to talk about, I've been super curious, and I feel like it's been in the ethers and just this conversation around king energy and the king archetype, and feeling like myself and women around me are really wanting that in a relationship with a man. And so, and I know that you are currently in that space of sharing that wisdom and knowledge with people that are wanting to access that energy. And so that's where we're carrying this conversation and topic to. And I was wondering if we could segue into that and talk a little bit about first, like, what is the king archetype, and how can how can men embody more of that energy?
Hmm. Yeah, this is like a massive, huge umbrella topic, and books have been written about it. And like we
Yeah.
could go so deep into it. But the way that my work has evolved and the way that I love to view it is the king energy is the energy that is funneling the divine down through the crown and into the spine and into the heart and potentially the cock and the whole body. So it's like being anchored in divine love. And it's
Mm.
like that we're craving that. We're like, yes, I want divine love. Like I want to feel God in my partner. I want to feel the accessibility of the divine in his heart. And I want to feel like my heart opening up to the divine. So first and foremost, I feel like it's a spiritual essence and it's a cosmic consciousness. And that's why like Christ is like revered as like the king. It's like he's the most divine one, the most Christed one, right? Quote unquote. And not to be religious at all. It's just we don't have any other examples that
Mhm.
I feel like represent that kind of exalted, divine, masculine king essence. So that's to me, like, first and foremost, the most important aspect. And then there's sort of like how it funnels down into like human awareness and consciousness. So if you read King, Warrior, Lover, Magician, the king archetype brings order to the land. And so the way I look at that is like consciousness is coming down, and then it's like the organizing principle in matter. So if we look at
Mm.
just like the atoms and how they're formed, and then how different elements are formed along that. It's like that is king consciousness, like organizing. And then it's also like architecture and organizing the kingdom, like what's at the center and how is the land laid out. And it's like,
Yeah.
so then it's the other aspect of that is like the thriving of the land. It's like, is everyone thriving in the kingdom? Like, is everybody happy? Does everybody have their needs met? And so king energy is actually about service. It's actually about serving those in your realm from like a strong connected place anchored in love. And so like others can really flourish. And so it's not about dominating or domineering or having power over or control or ownership or anything. Like it's an energy that is about service.
Yeah. And I think a lot of men, maybe that feels super far away. Like they're like, I don't know how to even access that. Like it feels so foreign and we don't have models of that. So it can feel like maybe men don't know how to access that, or even women may feel that they're not able to attract that caliber of a man. What would you say to either the men or the women that feel like that energy is far-fetched and not accessible?
Yeah, I mean, all spiritual, like I consider it a spiritual practice. So I consider it like, how deep are you going to go into your spiritual practice? And that allows you to access that archetype more and more. And it's a practice, right? Like we're not great yogis the first time we go to the mat. We're like, okay, I'm on the mat again and I'm stretching and I'm feeling and I'm expanding and I'm breathing. And so it's just like a return to your practice. And that could be surfing. Like it could be something that puts you on the edge of risking your life. Like it could be, really kind of on that edge that like brings you to your fullness and like to your fullest expression of your essence as well. And we could talk about essence later, but so I think first and foremost, like men have to initiate themselves and they have to want it. Like women can't initiate men fully into kinghood or king energy. It's just like, okay, I want this energy, and being at least in that inquiry is like the first step. And then men, in our society didn't go through an initiation from boyhood to manhood. And so I feel like these initiations are really happening later stages of life. It might happen in your 40s. And an initiation could be something that you choose. Like I'm going to go into the forest and have a vision quest for 4 days, which is massive, or ayahuasca or like shamanistic plant medicine practices. Or it can be something that you don't choose, which is like loss and heartbreak and like a death of a father or a mother. I'm like, that's a huge initiation for a man, losing someone or something that he truly, truly loves. So like, I feel like that initiation, if a man chooses to like yoke it, will give him some of that like inner strength and essence, if he really wants to like call upon it. And then there's like, then there's embodiment practices and reading, and I do empowering and embodied identity. Did I say that right? Embodying an empowered identity. So it's like, it's really like calling him in and being like, what does it feel like to be in my king? And how does he dress? And how does he touch? And how does he speak? And how does he move? And like, what would it be like to function as him? And I do that with my inner empress energy. I'm like, ooh, it's like I'm sitting on my throne here and I feel totally lit up and I get to like speak to you from this place. So it's like, it's a little play, it's a little imagination, it's a little like, ooh, let's role play. Like, what would it be like to be in your king? Or what if you did buy a robe or like something that makes you feel that way in a more like tangible sense? And I think it's important to like bring in the element of play.
Yes.
Where it's like not
so feel that.
so serious,
Yeah. I think it's like even the energy, like even saying the word king, like I feel like it brings up a lot and it's like just feels so far away. So I think bringing in that play aspect of like, what would it be like? And can I just access this energy just like slightly to get like a flavor of it? I think is really amazing advice. So, and I mean, I play with that too in my own embodiment practices. Like, what would a queen feel like and look like? Or like you said, an empress or sacred slut. Like there's so many of these archetypes we can play with at any moment in time. And I think, yeah, it's a lot easier than I think we make it out to be, of just like accessing these energies
Mhm.
that we all have the capacity to tune into.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is like these archetypes weren't invented by the mind, they were found in our
Mhm.
subconscious. So they're already inherently within all of us. Like even the
Mhm.
masculine ones we can access, and even the
Mm.
feminine ones men can access. So like we have an inner king, we have an inner warrior. Like we have that
Yes,
instinct to defend and kill if we needed to, so it's like
I love
it's
that.
within it's within all of us. And so I think just trusting in that and being like, oh, it's already within me. It's
Mm.
already part of my conscious and subconscious mechanism, you know.
Yes, I love that. And hmm, for a woman that's with a partner that they would like to see them embody more of their king energy, like we spoke a little bit about it before, but what are some
Mhm.
of the things that you think really turn off a man from stepping into that energy?
Yeah. Well, nagging and criticism and, just being uninspired in your own body. Like if you're just feeling kind of meh and suppressed and just like not in your queen essence, like you're not really going to inspire your man to step into his king. So I think it first and foremost, it starts from within, and it starts from like, okay, how can I access my own inner divinity or priestess or queen or whatever that archetype is for you? And really, from like the most loving place, invite him forward, like call him into himself and be like,
Mm.
wow, I really see this in you. And I'd really love to see more of it. Like, how can I empower that in you, King? Like even calling him like, hey, King,
Mm.
like I really see you. And this would like really absolutely delight me, and it would pull me closer to you. And I would just like absolutely love to feel your heart more. Or like, hey, can we go to that meditation class together? Like I'd really
Mm.
love to anchor in a spiritual practice with you. And spiritual practice is deeply personal, so it might not fit with each partner, but it's like be the invitation and also like be the energy that you're wanting to invoke as well.
Yes.
And it's not perfect. Like I still nag and I still am like me. And like I still have that tendency, but it's like, okay, if I really want to shift like my consciousness and like the way I perceive him is actually affecting how he is behaving back.
Mm.
And so if we can like hold like he does have divine masculine energy inside of him. And like, I know
Mhm.
he does.
Mhm.
So, there could be more like spiritual and sexual, like kind of secret practices that we could do, like kind of more tantric practices that we could do as
Mhm.
well, of like even just sitting in yab yum and sitting instead of like love making laying down. It's like if our spines are aligned between heaven and earth, we are now channels for that divine essence to move through us. So I feel like even just sitting up with our partner and looking into their eyes and breathing with them, we're going to feel a different energy in them.
Mm.
And I also feel like allowing their vulnerability to come forward and be safe. Because if we want to feel their hearts, we get to be an invitation in a safe space for their vulnerability to open.
Yes, you're speaking my language.
Meow.
And I think too, something that's been a practice for me is like acknowledging when whoever the partner or lover I'm with, acknowledging like what they do that's really yummy that I see that they're trying to do, or show me ways of love, and just really verbally saying that and acknowledging like you're doing a good job and I would like more of it, or whatever it is. And I think we don't do that enough. We're always kind of looking at what could be more, what could be better. And I feel like when we're constantly in that place, like it can be, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, it can be difficult for the man to step into this king energy if we're constantly looking at what is wrong or what's not working. So would you
Mhm.
agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Men thrive on praise. They
Yes.
just do. And they kind of wither and I don't know. They do not thrive on criticism.
Oh, are you still there? Oh, we're back.
Okay.
All I heard was thrive was the last piece.
They really will thrive on positive feedback or
Mm-hmm.
constructive
Mm-hmm.
feedback. And of course, there's going to be some times where we're going to have to like sit them down and have those like tougher conversations, of
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, hey, my needs really aren't being met here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say we just need to brush over those harder conversations, but like the day in and day out of in passing or you're busy, it's just like, oh babe, thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate it so much. Like, wow, I really see how you're showing up. Like that to them would just like shift so
Mm.
much of how they're feeling. And they, as much as we would like to all be validated from the inside out, like they need that outside validation.
Yeah, and
They
I
really do.
yeah, I totally agree. And I think also too, there's this subconscious trauma that a lot of women have around men in general. And because it's like we have been talked down to or mistreated by the patriarchy, there's like this underlying like energy of anger and frustration. And so I think that can subconsciously prevent us from praising our men. And so I think it's a really deep practice to really, like, if we're having difficulty doing that, to like lean into that a little bit more, and to see that there's so much beauty and magic and praising and acknowledging and
Mm-hmm.
complimenting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am trying to make it more of a practice of telling men how sexy they are.
Ooh.
Yeah. And like some of them are like, I've never heard that in my life. Like I've never gotten
Yes.
that. And we're used to getting that validation of like men telling us how sexy we are, how attracted they are to us, but
Mm-hmm.
like we barely say it in return.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it'd be interesting to poll how many men like their love language is words of affirmation, but I think it's pretty high. Like I think
Yeah.
it's higher
Yeah.
than we think. So I think that
Mm.
that praise is going to go a long way.
That could be a practice for you listening,
Yeah.
ladies. Thank you for sharing that, Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So I would like to segue us into speaking to the nice guy, what would you call it, syndrome, or how, yeah, what would you speak to this nice guy thing that men struggle with?
Yeah. So almost every single guy that I have coached, and I would say the last few men, good handful of men I've dated, have the nice guy syndrome. And this isn't to like shame them or say you shouldn't be a nice guy, because that's not like what it's saying. It's sort of like what the syndrome is men have built a part of their psyche out of pleasing their mother, who might have been overbearing or over emotional or over needy. And they might not have had a strong masculine figure in their life, or just a vacant father, or their father just wasn't really displaying like strong leadership, or like the king archetype kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when the king archetype was vacant in their childhood, the mom sort of like took that role, but in an unhealthy kind of shadowy way. So in order to get the love from their mother, they learned to appease her and do everything that she wanted and nothing that she didn't want. And she might have been overly critical of him and been like, no, not like this, I need it like that. And she might have been the nitpicky kind of like complainer, never really telling them that she loves them and accepts them just the way they are. Like, so they either were too much or not enough. And so their whole, survival mechanism from a child was, oh my God, if I want love from my mother, I have to contort to her will or her needs or her wishes. So I'm just going to do that because I have to survive, right? Like I have to get her love. And for a man, young boy growing up, like a mother's love is everything. So, he learned that behavior to survive as a child, but then now it's like expressing as an adult, which is basically, well, now the next woman in my life is my lover, and I must do everything to like please her and appease her and meet all of her needs. And, can go a little bit into codependency or a lot bit into codependency. And in return, I'm going to get all the love that I want. And she's going to love me and accept me and praise me. And I'm just going to get all my needs met. And life's going to be perfect. If I do everything perfect, the relationship's going to be perfect. And it never is. and they never do get their needs met. And they never get the full love and acceptance that they're like really longing for. And then in turn, like it goes into like a negative spin, then they get angry and resentful. It can look like covert narcissism, manipulation of just like being kind of like in a reactive state of just like going to support your life and all these things and cook you dinner and massage you, and then you're going to love me, right? Like,
Yes.
And yeah, it's damaging, it's damaging ultimately to the male psyche. And the female, like we think we're getting everything that we want. Like it feels like, oh wow, here's this guy that's just like willing to do anything for me. But what happens is like he doesn't have a backbone to say no to you. And we actually slowly lose respect.
Yes.
And when we slowly lose respect, then we kind of go into that dominating, quote unquote masculine role. And then we just kind of like sabotage the whole relationship.
Yes. I can say
Yeah.
I've totally been in that where I've dated a man and they just would bend over backwards for me, like literally do anything I asked. And it's like at first that felt nice, but then in some ways it felt repulsive to me because he just didn't have boundaries, like wasn't capable of saying no and being clear on what he actually wanted. And then on the flip side, it's like when I've been with a man who was super clear on what he wanted and would state his desires, it would just turn me on so much to have that really lasered, clear, focused communication. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a man who is like, actually, no, I can't do that for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, hey, actually, no, you can't talk to me like that. I actually command respect from you. Then you're like, oh,
yes.
Yes, of course, king. Like, absolutely. Like it brings us into more of alignment of who we want to be. Like, we don't want to be a nagging, bitchy, disrespectful, domineering whoop. Like, it's not actually fun for me, at least.
No,
it's not fun. And I don't think it's fun for the man. And so like we do thrive with a man who's super duper clear and has boundaries and commands respect and is like, yeah, I'll meet you, but like I also want to be met. And like and it's not necessarily tit for tat. It's not like I'll do this and you do this. It's there's a reciprocity, but it's a little bit more energetic. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, completely agree. Oh, I love all the things that we talked about. I could just go on and on and on. Is there anything else you want to speak to around the king archetype, or yeah, anything that you want to share on that subject. I know there's a lot
Mhm.
that we could share.
Mhm. Yeah. So like what I've been sensing lately from men who where I've been doing a lot of posting on the king archetype on Facebook and Instagram lately, and some men are like, yeah, this is awesome. I did a post like from the nice guy to the wild king lover, and some men were like, yeah, this is exactly speaking to me, this is where I'm at in my journey. And like it's really hard to access the primal when you're in your nice guy energy. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a because there's that psychology in the masculine psyche of like, I can't be in my primal because the primal masculine hurts people,
Yes.
and I'm a nice guy and I don't want to be someone that hurts someone. So I'm going to just like dampen or suppress that, and I'm going to empower these other parts of myself.
Mm.
But that's also like not a good long-term strategy. um in embodiment and wholeness and healing, it's like we want access to all parts of ourselves, and it doesn't mean we're going to be in the king archetype all the time, we're going to be in our wild lover man all the time. Like
Yes.
it's just like, okay, he's there when I need him, and the wildness is there when I need it, and the primal is there when I'm like really just need to get down and dirty and like have a
Yes.
primal roar and like scream. And it's more about like welcoming all parts of the self and integrating them and loving them, and having it part of your color palette of just like, ooh, I think this woman needs more of like the lover artist, like poet,
Mm.
adoration. And it's it's about play and just not squelching any part of ourself
Yes.
to fit in. And so I feel like a lot of men have been like putting themselves down or feeling less than or inferior. They're like, well, I'm not a king and they want to be a king and I am a nice guy. And, they're like, but I am nice. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Like you can be nice. You can be all these things. But I feel like they're just subtly denying parts of their psyche
Mm-hmm.
that would actually empower their lives. And I'm like, okay, if it's working for you, like don't change it. But are you accessing like the fullness of your sexuality? Are you taking your woman to those like is she feeling wildly ravished and fully satisfied? Like it's just like is it enough for you? Like are you really satisfied? And if not, like maybe there's some more to explore. Like maybe there's a more full range and spectrum of expression to empower and to like explore that.
Yes. Listen up, men. Take notes. I love you, Lauren. I love
Yeah.
everything you shared about. I know deeply that a lot of men could be of benefit to you and your wisdom and your
Mhm.
gifts. And which brings me to, what is your current offer that you have going right now?
Yeah. I am currently working one-on-one in a 3 or 6 month container, coaching container with, heart-centered men that just know that there's more available in their sex and love life. And maybe they're struggling with performance anxiety. Maybe it's like sexual blocks. Um, so they're just like really, really, really ready to have the sex, love, and relationship life and be with a partner that meets them on every level. They're like, okay, I deserve this. I'm worthy of this. I'm ready for this. Um,
Yes.
yeah. So just holding that invitation and um, yeah, absolutely thrilled at and with like the men who do show up at my
Mm.
doorstep. I'm just like, wow, like, they're just they're just amazing men. So
Mm. I love that.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And then, so a question that we ask all of our guests is, what is bringing you the most pleasure in your life right now?
Hmm. What's bringing me the most pleasure is community, actually. I'm here on Maui just for like another 10 days or so, but just the community here and being in the house with you. And I also had a birthday
Mm.
party. And so I was just surrounded by my community and just how they show up and love and nourish and hold presence. And I also went to like a Midsummer's Daydream party on Sunday, and it was just community. And I was like, wow, these people are amazing and sharing their gifts and their magic. And it just lights me up so much.
Yum. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you. Thank you again, Lauren, for being here. And I love this conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much for going so deep on these topics and bringing your unique perspective
Thank you.
and voice. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll be sure to leave Lauren's contact and information on the description of this episode. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.